Hello to everybody watching and listening. There is a new update for Air War 2 on the horizon, and with that comes a new update for AMU that has two returning features that I think everybody should be looking into, because they can potentially, well, they can be a bit overpowered, but they can also help players a lot and make the game in one way easier, but also in another way less manual labory, if that makes any sense. I'm not sure what the English word for that is right now. The most important feature is AJEA, the Auto-Juggle Energy Assistant. It's a sort of, well, it's an assistant for the player. It manages the converters, the matter converters, and if you install the micromod collection, also the energy converters, and makes it so that you will basically never brown out, and you will always have enough energy as long as you don't mismanage your economy in such a terrible way that nothing short of cheating can help you anymore. So for the purpose of showing this off, the Capturable Repositioning is first because it is in the map generation. This enables it so that the capturables will spawn somewhere near the gravity well, although you can make these settings different and also make the game harder for you, because it will in theory allow you to put everything into the center of the planet as well. So with a good distance to wormholes and somewhat close to the gravity well of the planet, this by the way is for the default 52k diameter planet. If a planet is larger, this value will adjust in the same ratio as the planet size is compared to the 52k. Same goes for the other values as well. And if the planet is smaller, of course, it will decrease. So to show this off, I'm just going to start a new game. And we are going to go towards the AI homeworld planets, bastion worlds. And since I also enabled it to affect the mines, the energy mines or metal harvesters or whatever it spawns, depending on distributed economy or not, then these will suddenly all be somewhere on the outskirts of the planet. Same goes for the other planets. And they will also keep a good distance to wormholes if they can. Now the distance to wormholes isn't that incredibly high, but it makes a difference, not simply for these harvesters, but especially for important things like the major data centers. Because if this were located, say, here, there would be a lot more problems. Because, well, a simple exostrike could just come in, decide to stay a little, and wreck it. But if it's here, you can reasonably protect it with turrets, with mines, with gravity generators, with tractor beams, with everything you want. So this makes it a lot easier for the player. Also, it only affects immobile things. If something is mobile, like, say, these capturables, then it will not affect those. And unless you enable it, it also won't affect the asteroid mining power plants or asteroid mines, depending on which resource generation mode you have enabled. It also won't affect things like, say, the beacons, because the AI doesn't attack those. What would you want to do with them? Now, this basically already covers everything for the capturable repositioning. I'm just going to invert the settings to show what that's like. If you maybe want to make the game a bit harder on yourself, just going to reduce this to, say, 1, and I'm going to set the maximum distance to 52k. I think I had that limit. Okay. Oh no, I set it to 26,000 because that's the radius. And this I'm going to set to, what was the maximum value? 20,000. I may or may not change these limits in the future, but this is, I think it's working right now. So this now makes it that the object will spawn at least 20,000 outwards from the gravity well, and at most 26,000, which basically is the middle of the planet, so this is effectively a non-condition anymore. And if we start the game now, and check on the AI homeworlds, because that's where the most harvesters is, so you can see the best spread, suddenly everything is in the middle of the planet. So you can also use Capturable Repositioning to make the game harder on yourself. Same goes for other capturables, like, where do we have something here? This abandoned asteroid mine, or this Zenith meta converter. And they also can spawn close to wormholes if needed. This makes the game a lot harder for the player, because, yeah, the AI can just path through here and take this driving by. So much for the capturable repositioning. It's a fairly simple but a fairly effective thing. Also, it won't affect existing saves. Even if you enable AMU mid-game or you load an older save or something like that, it will only affect newly generated maps, and it also won't affect your homeworld. Because those aren't in the natural what's it called? Hang on, let me see. Natural objects. Yeah. I may or may not change that in the future. But there's not really that much of a purpose. If the enemy is on your homeworld, you are either able to defend it or you're screwed anyway. Now there is the other feature, which is AJEA in the automation tab. And this makes the game a lot easier for you, and it basically, in actual testing, it prevents all brownouts effectively. So what this does is, if you ruin your energy economy by, say, spawning a lot of Omus... I can't think and write. Let's spawn in 5 of those. So I'm going to set the energy limit a bit higher, and I'm also going to pause this because I don't want the energy numbers changing without me saying so. So we are now at 46k energy, round about that. And if we set this to a more reasonable value, like say 50k, which is in my opinion better, then the next Omu that we spawn, they take 50k each, will put us down to only 14k energy, which is below the 50k threshold now. So this is the moment where AJEA comes into action and automatically builds you a meta converter. So now the 50k costs are offset by the 50k energy generation, and you are once again sitting at a positive at least 50k energy. And you can repeat this, but this of course is going to cost you a lot of metal. So AJEA will show you a notification here if you enable the setting to always show it. I will right now. You will always see this. Usually it only shows when the loss of metal is going into a level where you probably should know about. So right now about 21.1 energy are being used, 21.1% of energy are being used on converting our metal into energy so we can sustain our fleets in this case. But the same goes for turrets and just about everything else. AJEA will also correct any possible mistake or getting destroyed or anything else, and will simply rebuild those. Now, you might see a bit of bouncing back and forth with these generators. And I imagine it might be a lot worse if the game is running at a slower sim speed or something, because there's also a setting for running AJEA on every sim thread, on every sim step. This makes it a lot worse, but you might also see it otherwise, because the number for the energy, as far as I know, it recalculates every second, but AJEA will now do calculations if you are at 100% game speed, not sim speed, but game speed. Then it will try to do these calculations 10 times per second, so it might complete a converter, and the energy number here will not include it yet, so it will build one and then destroy one, but with the next calculation it usually gets it right. So this is what you are seeing here.
Energy low. Force fields
Not that it makes that much difference, because this thing costs 1.25k metal, and if you're wasting 5% of that on something spawning and immediately being deleted, then it usually makes no difference. The per sim step calculation simply makes it so that AMU reacts a lot, AJEA reacts a lot snappier. Because what it can also do is make it easier to build things with high energy costs. So I'm going to set this down to 10k.
Expecting everything to
So
go
right now,
even
one of the converters has been destroyed, because it is no longer needed. Usually this wouldn't show, but right now it does, because, well, there's no conversions going on right now. Also, the converters, just as an info, they are now up 10% in their consumption and production, simply because right now this transport here has been on the planet for over 5 minutes and not crippled, so it boosts everything metal and energy wise by 10%. Both the metal gained, the energy gained, and the metal lost in this case. So our conversion capabilities are up 10% as well, but our efficiency itself is still the same. So if we want to build a couple of turrets now, if we want to place all 20 of those pike turrets, we couldn't in theory, because we only have 45k, we only have 18k energy and we would need 45. But if I start holding Control and Alt, AJEA immediately reacts and builds me a converter so that now I can do this. And if I want to place these crusher turrets, which costs well over 50,000 energy, which currently we don't have, then it reacts again. And if I were to destroy these, and apparently destroy those as well, okay, they need a couple of seconds until they can get recaptured, then they will also get destroyed again. This is the first thing that reacts, or the first thing that AJEA reacts to. The next thing is if you're trying to capture something expensive, like say this toroid here, which costs us 100,000 energy that we do not have at the moment. So let's just... Oh, they are already dead, all of them. Really? No cloaked stuff? Okay. So, if we are building a military command station, even with the 70,000 energy that it grants, we still wouldn't be at the 100,000 that this toroid needs. Additionally, the command station will spawn a lot of a lot of station keeping things that I'm auto building. And this makes it so that our energy is getting adjusted on the fly to at least now be the 100,000 that we need to capture this toroid here. Also right now, since I have, well, enough energy, it will no longer adjust no matter what I'm trying to build. Even the 72,000 energy needed for the ambush turrets here, I can just place them and that's it. And then AJEA will build back up so I can capture this unit if needed. If I then pause the claim, the energy will no longer be reserved for this. And that's how you can be sure that even if you have this limit set to a relatively low number, like right now, you are still building everything and still capturing everything you need. Now, one more thing I might do in the future is the only reason why this number here, the, where is it again? The amount of energy here has to be at a somewhat reasonable value is because it needs to be at least as high as the biggest or the highest energy cost of the biggest ship you are building. Let's just give ourselves some metal. Because if I were to set this very low, like to below 9,000, and the energy would be at less than 9,000 actually, then I would stop building force field frigates. I may or may not in the future do a mechanism where it goes through all the factories, see what they are building, and then start actually setting that value fully automatically. But yeah, not yet. Not yet. Now, the brownout protection works in the same way as you might expect. If I just transform this into an economic station, a lot of stuff gets destroyed. We have a lot of surplus energy, which means we can do a lot more OMUs. I forgot we're still capturing this. Let's just instant capture it. And since we are also constructing more ships from these OMUs, our energy costs or energy needs are constantly going up.